You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey everyone, this is Michelle Pierson here, helping you to discover your life purpose and rock it. And today we have an awesome interview coming up with Jacob Sokol. And Jacob Sokol, he used to work for an awesome IT computer network company in Times Square in New York City. And he got all the perks that come along with that. Lots of money, cool car, motorcycle, I'm sure lots of women, great food. You know, all the things that we're told that we want in life that give us security, happiness, and fulfillment. But after some time, Jacob realized that that wasn't for him. And everything changed in 2009 when he took 5 weeks off from work to backpack in Europe alone. And so ever since then, when he came back, a monumental shift occurred in his life. And he created the company Sensify, which he's going to share with us today what that's about and what his mission is, his journey, his insights, why he's doing what he's doing. And I love that he says that he is now living a life of passion, purpose, progress, and playfulness. So, without further ado, please allow me to introduce Jacob Sokol.
Michelle, thank you so much, and thank you for beautifully articulating that. It was so great to hear you talk about it, and to see you be able to express my journey and the passion that you resonate with in regards to it. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for being here. So what I'd like to first start off and ask you is if you can tell our viewers here, you know, because a lot of people that are into this work are wanting to follow their heart. You know, they're tired of doing things just to make money and just to get by. They want to do something that brings them meaning. You know they have a greater purpose here on the earth, but they don't really know how to go about it. There aren't really any examples of successful people. And so I'd love it if you can just start off and share with us briefly kind of where you're at in New York City, you know, this high-paying job, the lifestyle you were living, and really what changed that allowed you to kind of take that big leap into the unknown and start to really go out on your own as an entrepreneur and step into your mission and your purpose.
Yeah, I love that. Well, the thing that comes up initially for me is there's a quote that says that people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes worse than the potential fear of the unknown. And I think for me, there was just so much pain going on inside, being where I was, doing what I was doing. And my childhood was very adventurous. To quote the notorious B.I.G., I grew up a screw-up. So for me to actually get to that position in life where I was, you know, successful by society standards was a huge deal for me, for my parents, for my sense of self-esteem, that I could play that game. I could make it work. But there was something deep inside that was missing, and it was a sense of purpose. And I knew that more of the same wasn't the answer. So it would be one thing if it was just stick it out, you know, keep grinding away, you'll get there. But intuitively, I just knew that more of this wasn't going to equal more happiness. Actually, it would probably equal more anxiety, despair, depression, whatever, you know, uncertainty, whatever was coming up for me. So the way that I like to describe it to people is it's almost as if we're on this hamster wheel, and we're running and we're running and we're running and we're running because we're good hamsters, you know, we really care, we want to make a difference, we want to do the right thing, we work hard, but we end up exhausting ourselves and we don't know what to do, and we can feel burnt out, hopeless, helpless, and just what do I do with my life? So I think the first step is just slowing down and allowing ourselves to break our routine and our pattern, and once we slow down, we can have some awareness, oh shit, I'm on a hamster wheel, how did that happen? And we realize, oh well, I was put on there by society, and by doing all the things that, you know, I'm supposed to do based on society, culture, our family, our religion, our background, our gender, all the things that kind of tell us who we should be subtly. And so I think that's the first step, is slowing down and then starting to study ourselves and starting to say, who am I and what's important to me? What are my values? What are the things that most make me come alive? What are my strengths? What are my passions? What are my dreams? If I had no obligation to ever actually pursue what I'm about to say, what would I say that my dream would be? And just start to play with that and see what are my fears? What are my triggers? When do I feel good? When do I feel bad? Just for me, it was all about really becoming a student of Jacob. Who am I? what am I here to do with my life? And it's really an identity quest, especially at that stage in our 20s and even in our 30s or beyond. It's really about figuring out, who am I? What am I here to do? And then I think once we have that information, we can jump off that hamster wheel, which is incredibly scary, and that's that leap of faith that you brought up. And I actually like to frame it more as a walk of faith, because I think that people think that there's like a leap and they're going to like hold their breath and jump off the cliff and like they're going to land and, whatever, that it'll be done. And I see it much more like walking through that dark forest where there's unknown and there's, you're scared and it's not easy and it's a long walk. But it's a fulfilling walk. It's a walk that keeps you playing at your edge, that gives you meaning and purpose, which we can talk more about. But just want to check in with you there and see if I'm actually answering your question or not.
Yeah, you are. I like the way you articulated that as a walk of faith, because you're totally right. It's not like we just take this leap and then, everything's perfect, I have the lifestyle. It's a continued process of constantly having faith and carving your own path into the unknown, because when you jump off the hamster wheel, there is no set, way to follow it. It's like you're creating your own life as the artist. So I like that, the way you phrase that as a walk of faith. So what I'd like to do is just ask you about this trip you took to Europe, and what was it that changed for you to go from, high-paying job, New York City, you've got everything that a lot of people aspire to achieve. What was it that really shifted? Was it one moment that you realized you had kind of like a aha, awakening? Or what happened for you that when you came back from that trip, you thought, I can't continue doing this anymore the way I'm doing it. Something's got to change.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for me, I think in retrospect, what it was is that trip and travel as a whole allows us to replace our assumptions about what life is like and what life needs to be like. So I went to a place I had never been before, Europe, and I went to, I think it was like 11 cities or 11 countries in Europe within 5 weeks. And I just saw a different lifestyle. I saw people from all over the world, and really there were three main things that happened for me on that trip. One is I realized there was the different lifestyle, so I didn't need to be in that corporate grind. And again, I didn't really know any different. I thought this is what I should be doing. These are the people who I was surrounded with. I didn't have people like you in my life. I didn't have people like Dave Ursula, who's in the other room right now. We're in Maui, by the way, for the time being. And I didn't have this kind of community that let me know that there's another reality that's possible. There's another lifestyle. So traveling allowed me to see that, one. Number two is that travel allowed me to escape my role, and I think that at home I was like, this is great. I was Jacob, the IT guy, and anything that I did kind of had to fit into the role of Jacob, the IT guy. But there's a really authentic side of myself that doesn't fit in and conform to that role that I had, so I couldn't really go into an office and speak with the type of passion and like just verbiage that I like to speak with, because I needed to be a professional. Mm-hmm. Couldn't listen to like hip hop music when, whatever. And I get that, but it just felt like there was a sense of my soul that was being like confined and not able to be expressed. And when I was traveling alone, what it allowed me to do was to stop being affirmed. Like everybody was always constantly affirming who I was back at home, and it allowed me to just be who I was in that moment and not have to listen to subtly what everybody said I should be. And in turn, I stopped telling myself who I was. That was a really big thing for me, is that I stopped saying, no, but you're this guy, you're that, you don't do that type of thing, you're Jacob. You don't get out of your comfort zone and, go strike up a random conversation with somebody who looks interesting, because that's just not what you do at home. But when you travel, when you're just in the moment and you're present, it's like, yeah, screw it, why not? So that was the second thing. And I think the biggest thing that happened to me on that trip was that Eckhart Tolle talks about it, and it's that the idea is that we are not our thoughts, and that we are a being and we have thoughts. I'm a super practical guy. I feel almost weird just talking about this right now, because it just borders on being too out there for me. Just because I'm born and raised in New York, street smart kind of guy, and I have a spiritual side to me.
Yeah.
But so for me, it was, I understood the theory of, we are not our thoughts. Yeah, that's really great. Okay, cool. We're not our thoughts. Our thoughts come and they go. But really being on this trip allowed me to detach, because our thoughts are just patterns. they're habits. And the same way that you have a habit in your life of brushing your teeth, waking up at a certain time, eating what you eat, we have habits of our mind. And the more that we do a habit, the more that that kind of feels ingrained into who we are and what we do. So when I was out on this trip, my thoughts started to change. And like back at home, if I had a crazy thought, I thought it meant that I was a crazy person. Now that's still up for debate. I may be a crazy person, I may not be. Hopefully I am. But when I was out on this trip, it allowed me to realize, holy shit, I'm not my thoughts. And if I'm not my thoughts, and really realize it, like not internally realize it, or like intellectually, but to actually internalize it and really feel it, experience it. And that allowed me to realize if I'm not my thoughts, I can change my thoughts. If I can change my thoughts, I can change my life. If I can change my life, the possibilities are open for me. And I just felt like going back to that old job would get me back in that same rut of thoughts and all that other stuff. And I just knew I couldn't do it. It was just, I need to figure out how to leave. I'm going to give myself 6 months to figure out how to do it. Long story short, I ended up reducing my expenses, literally cut my expenses in half. And that's where the story continues.
Yeah, I like what you said about, changing our thoughts. Because we have, I don't know how many, but thousands of the same repetitive thoughts every single day. And we start to identify and think that we are these thoughts. But when something happens and it takes us out of our comfort zone, whether we travel or even some sort of, like emergency of a situation, we kind of step out of that and realize that that's not really who we are. And so what it sounds like is when you went traveling, you realize, whoa, I was stuck in this kind of, frame or box of who I should be and how I should think and how I should act. And you start to get in touch with your authentic self, with your soul and what you're really about. And I think a lot of people are hearing that call now, but they don't know how to really step into it. So what I'd like you to do is just share when you came back and you decided to cut your expenses in half and you decided to kind of embark on your own and start your website. How did you come up with the name Sensiphy? What does it mean? And how does it help people?
Yeah, right on. So, Sensiphy, I'll continue the story where I left off. So I leave my job, I come to Hawaii, and the reason I came to Hawaii is I had an old roommate who moved here, and she said, hey, you can sleep on my floor if you want, go ahead. And I'm like, seriously? I've never been to Hawaii, I know nothing about it, but I can stay with you for 6 weeks? All right, I'm game, let's go. So I came to Hawaii, and what I did was I just wanted to study, and I just wanted to learn, but I wanted to learn and study things that I cared about, not what I was told I should care about. And that's when I came across, or around the same time that I came across Brian Johnson's work with Theos and Philosopher's Notes, and I was just like, this is it, this is what I've been looking for, why didn't I get taught this ever before, where was this, and I think you have had a very similar experience, but to me it felt like Brian bridged the gap between all this great wisdom that was out there, and he made it super translatable in a way that I got, because he just spoke like a regular dude who could take old school philosophy, positive psychology, conscious capitalism, all these things that as like a 24-year-old or at any age, I just felt like we're so far removed from what I could possibly really get, and he just helped me get the ideas behind it. And I just became such a passionate embodier of the work that he was teaching, and I started to do that introspective work that I talked about, being on that hamster wheel. So slowing down and saying, really, what are some of the quality questions that I want to ask myself? If I had all the time and all the money in the world, what would I do? What would I dare to dream if I knew I couldn't fail? What are the 5 things I admire most in other people? Who are 5 people I admire? Why do I admire them, right? And then realizing, those qualities are things that I myself want to have. I admire Brian because, he's really rocking his life, making a meaningful contribution and making money doing it. I'd love to do that also, so paying attention to kind of quality questions. And in the process, one of the questions I asked myself was, what would if I could give anything to the world, what would it be? If I could literally give, what would it be? And I think my, unrealistic gift would be that I wanted to give, 1 million people the experience of going from where I was, feeling what I felt like, that monotony, that despair, that confusion, that hopelessness, to what I felt at that point in Hawaii, that inspiration, that hope, that sense of purpose and meaning and, all that goodness, right? And that's what I want to give to the world. How do I take people from being where I was then to where I am now, feeling what I felt then to feel what I feel now? So I started Sensify, not knowing how I'd make it a business, just knowing like I can give. And then there was another thing that I paid attention to that I got from Brian, which is loosely based on the hedgehog concept. And the idea is that great businesses all have three things in common, right? They figure out what they're deeply passionate about, put that in one circle. They figure out what their strengths are, potentially what can they be the best in the world at even, they put that in another circle. And then the third circle is where is there a need? How can they provide some kind of value? What service can they create? And where these three circles overlap is the sweet spot. And for me, that's my purpose, right? So, and on a kind of macro level, that's my purpose on a big picture kind of thing. So I was like, well, I think that this Sensify thing could be a way that, and that's how I came to the conclusion. And then Sensify, right? So it comes from two words, sense and Sophie. And sense is like sensation, your senses, it's the feel. And Sophie comes from philosophy, meaning wisdom, Sophie meaning wisdom. So it's the feeling of wisdom. It's not just knowing something, and it's not just like studying something, but it's taking that wisdom, embodying it, and then feeling the results in your life.
Yeah, and I just want to back up what you said about when you were I know you're in Hawaii now, you're visiting, but when you went initially to your friends, I love how you asked that question, what is it that I could give to the world if I wasn't concerned about how it was going to happen, if money wasn't a thing? I think that's a really important question for people to ask themselves, because so many times we put up excuses of why it can't happen. Oh, it's the money. Oh, I don't know enough. I don't know the people in the industry, whatever it is. But really it's about just asking yourself that question that you said right there. What is it that I would do that if I didn't have any money, I had the most time in the world, I didn't have to worry about it, what would it be? I think that's where you can start off with, discovering what are the gifts and the talents that you have to offer the world, because we all have unique gifts and talents. It's just a matter of us, kind of stepping up to the plate and saying, okay, what is that? So I love that you ask that question to yourself. And then also, what is it that I could give? What is the value that I could give in the world? Because being successful and making money, you can do it in a shady kind of way, but that's not what we're about. We're about like integrity and truth. And in order to be successful, you've got to be able to give something to people. So I love how you asked yourself those questions, because so many times people go through their life and they never ask these questions. They plan more of their 2-week vacation than they do to plan their life out. So I think that's really inspirational, and something that people can take away from this interview today is to start to ask themselves those questions in their life so that they can get clear.
Yeah, and then one quick thing I would throw out there is that give yourself time. Don't expect the answers to come right away. Like, that answer didn't just manifest mysteriously from God speaking to me through a meditation that I did, right? Like, that was me doing the journaling, staying with the questions, living the questions, surrounding myself with other people who are living those questions, immersing myself in community of people who understood, learning to dial down my trying to convince other people, like my friends and family, of what I was doing, being optimistic, studying the hero's journey, these types of things that allowed that to happen. And just one other thing that I have to throw out there is that the beauty of that 3-circle model that I mentioned is that, exactly like you said, I'm using my strengths, which people can take the Authentic Happiness Strengths Finders test if they're curious as far as what some of their strengths are. But you can also ask people, pay attention to when people thank you for things, or what are you naturally good at? Like, I have a decent sense of direction. Like, I would never think that's a strength, right? But it just in some way is. So just start to, pay attention to that. But what I was going to say is that when you embody this, not only are you doing what you love because you're passionate about it, and you're good at it, and you're getting better, but you're doing it in service to somebody or something larger than yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win. And it's not like you're showing up and it's anybody is losing in any way. You do what you love, other people benefit from it. So to me, that's kind of the beauty of doing work that you're passionate about. And of course, it doesn't come overnight. Still 3 years later, I'm still at the point now where this year I'm hoping to make from this business what I would have made from my IT job when I left, right? So 3 years later, still working on getting back to that place. But talk about purpose, talk about me being in Hawaii and going wherever I'm going to go and all the traveling that I do and the life I live and the people I connect with and how I spend my days, my overall quality of life, my sense of who I am and what's important to me, my growth, like these things you can't put a monetary value on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not back at that salary yet, although I'm excited to be by the end of the year. And it took me some time, but there's so, quality of life is just that much more better.
Yeah, you just said a lot of good things. I just kind of want to highlight all those. It really is about the lifestyle. The lifestyle of having a life of purpose and freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, whatever you want. I think it was Tony Robbins that said that that's the definition of success to him. And so just having the financial aspect is only a small component of it, because you could be the hamster on the wheel, right? You've got the money, but you're kind of stuck in the security and the comfort of being afraid that you're going to lose all of those things. So when someone wants to embark on following their purpose and doing what they love, there definitely is some sacrifice, right, that takes place. And you had mentioned that your family had, I'm sure they were well-meaning, but they had some concerns about you totally leaving this secure job. Like, what the hell are you doing, Jacob? How are you going to make a living? So what I'd like to do is just talk about that, because for people that are watching this today that are feeling the call that they want to live their passion and their purpose, but they're kind of scared about, the financial aspect and also what their family and friends will think. Let's talk about that, because I've gone through my own thing where people are like, you're crazy, what are you doing? And I had to go in hiding for a few months before I moved because I'm originally from Philadelphia. I literally went underground in hiding, didn't go out, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm moving to Hawaii in a month. And they're like, whoa, how did that happen? So I'd love for you to share, how you were able to kind of put those well-meaning voices aside from your family and friends and still continue to listen to your heart and stay on the path of the hero's journey, which takes a lot of courage and bravery and inner belief in yourself and also whatever you believe in, God, source, the divine. So if you could just talk about how you were able to deal with that would be helpful for people.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing I want to say is I love you, family. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching this, although you're probably not, but if you are, thank you. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think the most important thing that I had to learn from this is that it's possible to love somebody without them really understanding you, and that's a difficult one, especially when it's the people who you're closest to. Really, it's impossible to try to convince somebody to see your way of being, in a sense. So as much as I tried to do that, ultimately the lesson that I came to was I can love somebody without them getting who I am. And again, it hurts a little bit because this is the deepest part. What's most important to me, who I am, who I want to be, all of that. And like you said, sometimes we need to go into hiding, whether physically, emotionally, intellectually, whatever it may be. And I had a similar experience as well. They come around at some point, and they may never fully get you, but looking back 3 years later now, they're supportive at least. They love me, so I'm in their life. And there's certain friends who I don't hang out with much anymore. And again, I still love them. I have experiences with them that I could never recreate. Cutting class, smoking weed in high school, doing graffiti, all kinds of things that kind of were some really adventurous, cool times in my life. I'll just never recreate those experiences with anybody else. And I can love them and at the same time know that they're not the right people for me to be spending too much time with or any time with at all right now. Mm-hmm. Certain friends still get me. They get that I'm always growing. They get that I'm always evolving. And we may not be on the same exact street or path, but we can still love each other and hang out often and do all that goodness. One thing I'd like to offer for everybody watching, and this has been one of the biggest aha epiphanies that I've had. So I recently have been working on this conference, WTF Should I Do With My Life, where I went out and I interviewed 32 different just heroes of mine, from positive psychologists to CEOs to bloggers and just people who I really admire. And I feel like, as Brian with Philosopher's Notes did, there was all that great wisdom out there, but I needed someone to be able to translate that for me and be the bridge between that wisdom and where I currently was. So with this conference, the idea is basically young adults are in a place where they're trying to figure out, who am I and what am I here to do? So with the conference, we're looking to bridge the gap between these questions that we have as young adults and all this great wisdom out there that exists. So, get to my point. The last interview in the sequence, it's a guy named Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan Haidt is author of the Happiness Hypothesis. He's one of the world's leading positive psychologists. Incredibly intelligent guy, super cool, super just perceptive. And I asked him a question, and I said, Jonathan, there's all this great wisdom out there. You know, we've got blogs, we've got books, we've got TED Talks, we've got podcasts, we've got everything. You know, there's all this great wisdom out there that exists in a way that never existed before. Like, literally, you could log on to Harvard's website right now and take a free class at Harvard.
Really?
That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. And you could find one on positive psychology if you care about positive psychology or whatever you care about. So that's incredible that we have access to a Harvard type of education, Stanford, whatever it may be. It all exists for pretty much free on the internet. But how do we translate an aha moment or an epiphany that we have into lasting change? And he said, well, Jacob, that's a great question. And I said, in my head, I said, yeah, I know because I read it in your book, so I'm just asking it to you. And he said, well, it's really quite simple. People only change, and for the most part, and this is a bit of a generalization, but for the most part, people only change in two circumstances. One is when they change their environment, and the second is when they change their relationships. And unless they change their environment or their relationships, any change that we make is going to probably end up coming pretty close back to where we currently are right now. Pretty close. So with that in mind, and I've literally asked hundreds of questions in this conference. There's hundreds of big ideas, and this was the one that really stuck out to me as I'm constantly working with people to figure out how they can change their life and make it better. And for me, one of the things that I'm kind of paying attention to is, who do I want to surround myself with? What are the qualities of people that I want to see in myself? Who do I appreciate? Who do I admire? And then how can I really just immerse myself in their life? So, like, for me, and not everybody has the luxury that I have, I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I live with entrepreneurs for the next remainder of the year? Like, I just want to live with people who have thriving businesses that are doing things, making a meaningful contribution in a way that I appreciate, and just be like, how can I go live with them or live near them? And that's what I'm doing with Dave here right now. You know, Dave is another fellow entrepreneur, and just having him here to be able to bounce a quick idea off of has been tremendous for my business in a way that no book could have ever possibly allowed me to do. So for people who don't have that luxury of just choosing where they want to live, I would suggest, well, pay attention to who you surround yourself with. Are there meetup groups that you can go to after work? Can you join a mastermind group? Look at the blogs that you read. Look at the comments. Reach out to people in the comments. Get on the phone with them. Skype with them. Set up a weekly call. And make it a long-term vision. It's not about you need to do this today, tomorrow, the next month, but make it like this is your life that you have here. So really allow yourself the patience, the persistence, the diligence to make sure that you're going in a direction that brings you closer to a community of people that's in alignment with your values and your passions.
Absolutely. And that's really important what you said there, you know, surrounding yourself with the right associations. Napoleon Hill, who I'm, a big fan of, he was like the grandfather of personal achievement. He talks about the power of the mastermind and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And it's so important what you said, to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, other people that are positive, that are really going for it, that want to live on purpose. Otherwise, you kind of get dragged down and you'll go back into the old ways. And although we have relationships, like you said, with people you used to hang out with, smoke weed, do graffiti, that's great and all, and it's not that you don't want to be friends with them, but they're not kind of going on the same path as you, and you can still say hi to them and maybe hang out and have like a drink once in a while, but you can't really hang out with them on a consistent basis. You've got to constantly surround yourself with the right people that are going to take you up to that next level. And I also like what you said about it's not an overnight success. I think in the world we live in, it's such an instant, gratification society. It's like, okay, we can go online, we can order this right away, we can get fast food, we can do all of these things and get it right now. But the success principles are still the same, that it takes time. And I love what you said about, being consistent and having that diligence and, being persistent with all that, and that it's taken you a few years to get to this point now where you're just about to kind of break even with what your income was in your IT job. So I think that's also practical info that people need to know as well, is that when you embark on the hero's journey, it is going to be a challenge, but the lifestyle and the rewards and all of that far exceed, just playing it safe and being on the hamster wheel. So just for the last few minutes here, because I know you've got some other things to do, I just want to ask you if you could share, what are some key things, Jacob, that you do each day that help you to really stay on the path and focused, so that people that are watching this, they can start to integrate that into their life? Like, what are the things that really make the difference that you do day in and day out, that you can't compromise them at all?
Yeah, that's awesome. So the fundamentals, these are my fundamentals, and I meditate every day, first thing when I wake up. It's wake up, open my eyes, brush my teeth, use the bathroom, meditate. Pretty much, unless I'm like hungover, which is, but it happens on occasion, then I'll have to figure out when to meditate in that day, but I just do it right away. So meditation, boom.
Well, wait, what's I want to ask you, because people still are not quite sure about what meditation is. I think meditation is different to all people, so what is meditation to you? What does that mean?
Yeah, awesome. So I just focus on my breathing. I sit down, I put on a like ocean type of MP3 sound I use Blicitations, and I just focus on my breathing for 15 minutes. Deep inhales, deep like long exhales, and that's it. And it allows me to train my mind, and just anytime my mind jumps to, I need to do this interview later, I have a coaching call coming up, what about that project? This person didn't get back to me. What am I going to do about this situation? And just realize, thought about it, boom, back to my breath. And then I'll go for 2 seconds, and again, boom, and back to my breath. And just training my mind to be able to allow myself to have the presence to be able to have a conversation with you like this, and put my where I want it, where like 3 years ago, before I started meditating, my mind would be all over the place, and I just didn't have the awareness to be really present with you. I'd be so nervous, I'd be so all over the place. So now I kind of have sharpened that muscle in my mind to be, for the most part, focus on what I want to focus on. And what we want to focus on is creating our ideal life. So unless we can consciously focus on that without all of the negativity and the gremlins and just the baggage that we bring from our childhood into our mind, it's going to be really hard to craft that ideal life.
Yep, excellent point. I love how you mentioned the word presence. That's key, to creating what you want, what you need to do today, being present, being aware. So meditation, that's key for you. What are some other things that you do that you have to do each day?
So meditation, exercise is not every day, but it's like 4 times a week. And the Harvard science behind exercise is that if you're not exercising at least 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes, it's like taking a depressant pill. It's like taking a pill to make yourself depressed if you're not exercising at least 3 times a week. So I don't exercise because I love exercise, and a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they need to feel like they want to exercise in order to exercise. Here's a key insight. Feelings follow actions. So you take an action, and then you feel good because you took that action. But most of us get caught up in the idea that I don't feel like exercising, so I shouldn't exercise. But 90%, 95% of the time, when we actually don't feel good and then we go do it anyway, we start to feel good after, because feelings follow actions.
Yep.
So that's a huge one. Authentic connection. This is really big. I lived a lot of my life as kind of like not a loner, but I think there was a certain sense of pride that I had in being able to be self-reliant, be by myself, like not need other people. It's bullshit. That's complete crap. Setting yourself up for a miserable life.
Yep.
So being able to have authentic connections and surround yourself with people who you can really connect with, like this conversation. Not every conversation needs to be as deep as this one, but to me, like, connection is so important. So making sure I have a sense of that in my day. My nutrition, for the most part, I'm a pescatarian, so I mostly eat nutrient-dense foods for the most part. Again, there's nights I go out drinking, I eat pizza, I'm a regular person, so but for the most part, these are like the things that I do on a regular basis. I have a green smoothie every morning when I can. And then I do my work. Like, that's a huge thing for me, is I do my work. And if I don't do my work, I get anxious, or I get, like, uneasy. I feel like there's work that needs to be done for me right now in my life, and it's really important that I honor that, and that I show up for the work. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that I won't be anxious. Doesn't mean that I won't be off my game sometimes, or I won't have coaching calls where I'm not 100% on. But the more that I live in integrity with what I know to be true, the better everything else falls into place. My coaching calls, my business, my personal relationships, my love life, my family life, the whole package. So those are some of the things. And I'd say the biggest thing I'm focusing on this month is delaying instant gratification. So I feel like that is the biggest piece of resistance that I'm facing, or that a lot of us face, is, I'm just going to eat this thing, or I'm just going to, whatever it may be for you, have this drink, watch porn, watch TV, whatever for different people may be that trigger for them that they just go right into. For me right now, I'm just paying attention to how can I delay gratification and build that willpower muscle up. So that's my current focus practice for this month.
Cool. Those are all excellent things to do each day. I do similar things, and they really make a difference. It's about doing those key things each day over a period of time. And although you may not see the results right away, you will see it. It's the consistency in doing that. So what I'd like to do is just to close out this call by you sharing with us, if someone wants to learn more about your work, we know that you have the summit coming up, the what the fuck, should I do with my life, which is great, and I'd love for you to share how people can actually find out more about that. But before you do that, if you could just let us know, if someone wants to possibly work with you, I know you do coaching, how can you help them? How can they learn more about you?
Yeah, so the process would be very similar to all the things that we've talked about today. So for the people watching, if you've watched up until this point and it's resonating with you, reach out to me. We have an application. If you go to Sensify.com, maybe you could put a link somewhere to that.
Yeah, most definitely will.
Cool. So Sensify.com. There's a work with me page. You just apply. You just make sure we're a good fit. It's not for everyone. And when I first started my business, I think I was really hungry to get the business going, and as I do more and more coaching over the last year and a half, I realized that it's actually it's not for everyone. There's some people it's not a good fit, and if it is a good fit, it's even more worth it. So and I'm happy to help either way. So apply, and even if I can't help you, maybe I can point you in the direction of somebody who can, or just offer you some kind of feedback or guidance or whatnot. So that's one-on-one coaching, and then the conference, which WTF should I do with my life? It is my dream project. You could not have possibly put this seed in my head. When I left my job 3 years ago, I didn't know who any of these people were. I didn't even know what a life coach was. I didn't know what a virtual conference was. I knew nothing about anything. And then even a year ago, I was having tea with Brian in LA, and as we first came up with this idea, it was the first time I met Brian in person. And he was just like, who do you want to interview? Anybody who I know who you want to interview? You can interview them. I'll introduce you. Who do you want? Anybody you want, we'll figure out how to get them on board. And I'm just not believing my eyes. I'm just I'm not processing it, because, imagine having that conversation with somebody who you just absolutely respect and admire to the infinite degree. So 1 year later, and the idea was, again, those 3 circles, right? What am I really good at? Which is, being authentic, being myself, WTF, right? That's kind of authentic here.
Totally.
Wisdom, right? What am I deeply passionate about? Well, I'm deeply passionate about this wisdom that we're talking about, and other topics that we cover in the conference. And then, where is there a need? Well, I feel like my generation really needs this wisdom. So there are those 3 different circles. I think we can package this wisdom, ask the kind of questions that are really relevant to this generation, to the unique challenges that we're facing right now. There's lots of timeless wisdom out there. There's lots of timeless wisdom. But who's paying attention to the challenges of 2013 and how that wisdom applies to today's challenges? And who's doing that in a real way that is this, conversational? It's not just a bunch of textbook bullshit that somebody is going to get a grant for. It's actually addressing the real issues that I hear from my coaching clients, that my friends have, that I've went through, that I'm still going through. So that's the conference. It's 33 different chats from April 22nd to April 27th, completely free to attend and listen to. And I couldn't possibly be more excited. If you're not coming, I want to know why. Send me an email why you're not coming. If you are coming, send me an email and let me know that you are coming. You guys can all get the link from the bottom of this interview or however you provide it. But just so incredibly excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. I'm looking forward to it. I love, that it's real practical, down to earth stuff. It's like taking all of these esoteric principles and things and making them digestible and palatable in the world we live in today. Because it's like, how do I relate to the guru in the cave? Like, I'm working in this job and I've got to be there 9 to 5. What do I do? So I think this is going to add a lot of value to people. I'm excited to attend. We'll put a link below, and people can learn more information and sign up from there.
Thanks.
So, all right, Jacob. Well, any last words of wisdom that you want to share with us today before we end the call?
Keep in touch. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to develop these types of connections with everybody. This is what brings meaning and purpose to my life, is a sense of talking about the things I care about, connecting with people, and seeing how I can help and support them. So just keep in touch. We'll have all my info linked up here as well.
Yeah, we will. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Enjoy the rest of your travels. I know you're in Maui right now. You're living your dream, and you're going to be going over to Oahu later today. So have an awesome time in Hawaii, and just keep doing what you're doing. The world needs more of us to really get out there and inspire and help people. So thank you so much.
And thank you for asking questions that actually had some substance to them. I know I could feel there's a certain sense of like passion that comes through you as well when you talk about this stuff. It's not out there somewhere, it's in here and it's coming out. So thank you for showing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel it. I feel the goosebumps. I'm like, I'm passionate. It's on. So yeah, thanks for that acknowledgement.
Right on.
So all right, Jacob. Well, we'll be in touch, and take care. Thanks so much. Enjoy.
Okay.
All right. Aloha. Okay, so let me see if I can. All right.